Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 14th of September 1962. Too crazy. Having affections for family members, wife and children, is Tanha. I am still able to work, is Mana. In the words, I am able, the I-ness is Ditti. These Tanha, Mana, and Ditti are not arising by themselves. These are Papanka Dharma, extensions of samsara. These dharmas arise from clinging to the Khandha. Thus, you have to acknowledge that Tanha, Mana, and Ditti arise from the Khandha. They arise because of wrong seeing. For the Aryas, they do not arise. It's like the example of the mirror. When the Khandha exists and wrong attention, ioniso, is applied, the two combined result in the arising of Tanha, Mana, and Ditti, wrong seeing of the Khandha. Only by knowing the arising can one know the way of extermination. With the wrong attention to the Khandha right pointing arrow Tanha, Mana, Ditti, Upadana, and Kama right pointing arrow extension of samsara, sek. 2 connects to sek. 3. Therefore, these are Papanka Dharmas. Sayadaw gave some examples for them. A man marries a woman, Tanha. A mother attaches to her son, my son, Ditti. There are 2 causes for the arising of Tanha, Mana, and Ditti. These are Khandha, one's own and others, and wrong attention, ioniso. If you don't have Papanka today, you'll be happy today. Its fault is not small. Continuing the Ven. Punna's teaching to Ven. Ananda. The shadow arises from someone standing in front of the mirror. The one in front of the mirror looked like the shadow. If you ask me, isn't it me or the other person? The answer should be, it's neither me nor another. If your answer is, me, then there are 2 of me there. If you answer as the other person, then it's like me. Therefore, the Dharma is neither me nor another phenomenon. Tanha, Mana, Ditti are neither me nor another phenomena. If you separate the mirror and the person, there is no shadow there. Therefore, it arises by causes. With the causes ceasing, the shadow is not there anymore or not arising. Therefore, it's an arising and vanishing phenomenon. So if Tanha, Mana, and Ditti arise, one must contemplate them as Anicca. They are also not me nor others. They are non-self, anatta, phenomena. Therefore, if they arise, one can also contemplate them as anatta dharmas. Every time they arise, contemplate them as arising, vanishing anatta. Continues on Cittanupassana. Contemplating Anicca involves seeing with the right attention, and path factors arise, Maganga. Seeing with the wrong attention leads to the rise of Tanha, Mana, and Ditti. If you break down the mirror, the shadow can't arise. In the same way, if you break down the mirror like Khandha with Anicca, Tanha, Mana, and Ditti can't arise. The practice is aimed at making the shadows, i.e., Tanha, Mana, and Ditti, not arise. Sayadaw's teachings make the profound and subtle dharmas clear and understandable to the listeners. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 15th of September 1962. Crushing by Aging and Death. Based on the sutta, the simile of the mountain, Kosalasamyutta, SN 3. 25. There were many lives now and with many kinds of life, i.e., existences. Only Nibbāna is a place we have never been to before. Mostly in Apaya Bhumis as our frequent homes. In every life, we are crushed to death by 2 mountains of jara, aging, and marana, death. After the jara mountain of pounding and crushing becomes broken and the marana lets consciousness cease. According to the saying, Khandha nirodho nibbānam, the cessation of Khandha is Nibbāna. Only with the cessation of the Khandha are we free from the crushing of the mountain. The mountains of Jara and Marana come from this Khandha. Only by following the way of no Khandha can we be freed from it. The great confusion arises with the question, how can I live with no Khandha? Tanha comes in with reasoning. This point is extremely important. Tanha is very clever and exceeds any politicians, economists, and tycoons. It's the Kalesa Mara and his 3 daughters, Tanha, Arati, and Raga can lead humans to become crazy, insane, and mad. Even humans cling to the pithy body like a vulture clings to the putrid carcass. Human bhava tanha has no limit. Therefore, with wrong views creeping in, popular Buddhism has become popular. The culprits of the Khandha are also tanha and avijja. Transforming avijja and sankhara into vijja and visankhara, i.e., sek. 1. In a past life, you didn't address this, resulting in acquiring the Khandha in this life, i.e., sek. 2. Therefore, you must be crushed by the Jara and Marana mountains that the Khandha brings here. Continuing on Cittanupassana, contemplate all the minds arising in sek. 2. You observe only Anicca, arising and vanishing. It's acknowledging the Sakka truth. Past life avijja turns into present life vijja after encountering a good teacher, kalyana, and seeing Anicca. Sankhara becomes visankhara because tanha, upadana, and kama do not arise. Tanha, upadana, and kama are sankharas. Without them, it is visankhara. Therefore, the contemplative mind, the 5 maganga, is vijja and also visankhara. To be free from the crushing of the mountains, except for the 5 maganga and 8 magan, there is no other way. This is Magga-brahmacharya practice, the path of the holy life. The true refuge or reliability is only Magan Dharma. Whatever other things you rely on have to be crushed by mountains, all the outside powers, God or gods. You have to check yourself. There is a lot of aging, sickness, and death in the Khandha. Therefore, dukkha sakka arises or becomes clear. With thinking, i.e., right thought, the dharmas to Nibbāna arise. The Khandha brings aging and death to you. The Khandha comes from the prayers of tanha, sek. 3. Tanha is the creator. Reflecting in the reverse order, patiloma of DA process, the dharmas for practice appear, searching for the causes. Therefore, I have a warning for you. Whatever kinds of merit you're doing, don't make prayers for Khandhas. If you do, you only get aging, death, and dukkha. Again, tanha arises from payadasa, affectionate objects. Here is the Khandha, i.e., sek. 2. The whole process from sek. 4 to sek. 2. If we reject the 12 links of the DA process as 3 periods of time, then it becomes meaningless. Affection comes from not knowing, avijja. Then it's only necessary to discern it as worthless of affection, to discern it as dukkha sakka, useless and disgusting. Section 2 is originally dukkha sakka. You blindly take affection for the Khandha not knowing about it. Therefore, you have to correct section 2, thinking of the real dukkha as sukha. The Buddha describes it as dukkha sakka, but you all are calling it sukha. Therefore, in the whole of samsara, you have to cry for it. Dukkha may be the most difficult dharma to understand. Sayadaw himself also mentioned this point in his talks. It seems to me that without tanha, humans can't survive. They are always looking and searching for ways to nourish it all the time. Without tanha, they become bored. Therefore, Buddha Dharma is difficult to accept or appreciate by the majority. It requires intelligence and wisdom. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 21st of September 1962. The Real Father and Mother. Jatipadukkha Sakha, birth is the truth of suffering. Sayadaw talks about the filthy and unpleasant place of a mother's womb where a being is conceived. Becoming a disabled being or suffering being with the arrangement of kama. Without separating from kamas, you can never separate from birth, aging, sickness, and death, the four kinds of dukkha. Therefore, kamas are quite oppressive, but humans love it, too crazy. Even though it's very oppressive, humans still wish and desire good kamas because they don't see the truth, sakha. Even though they worship good kamas as benefactors. In every life, kamas associate with avidya, tanha, upadana, and oppress you. The sufferer is only one, and the oppressors are in a group, but you still associate with kamas. Your foolishness is so strong. Let us cut off these kamas with knowledge, nana. We have to kill the kam mother and kam father. Kam is the Burmese short form for kama. They are the real mother and father, they let you get birth. You must make these kamas not arise. With the seeing, do not let desire arise. Contemplate the seeing mind quickly as Anicca. The knowledge, nana, of contemplating Anicca cuts off tanha, upadana, and kama. In every life, with the lack of vipassana, you suffered from the arrangement of kamas, not by God. It can kill the three enemies. If you can't contemplate it, it was like looking after the enemies that oppress you. With the contemplation, you kill the oppressive enemies. If you say, I have no time for vipassana, it means, I'll let them oppress and kill me. Are you not tired of being oppressed? The Dharma that exterminates the enemies is vipassana. Don't lack vipassana for even one day. Also, you must practice vipassana continuously. If you don't, then you were born with and will die with double blindness. Discussion about Cittanupassana. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. 29th and the 30th of September 1962. A Tame Mind and Untame Mind. This Khandha body originally has sores, and with the entry into the thorny wood, more sores and pains arise. This is dukkha adding upon dukkha. With the present Khandha, kusa thorns prick the feet and the reed blades slash the limbs, and the samsaric sores and pains continue to grow. Sek. 2 is the body sores. With the external thorns of ayatana, sight, sound, etc., that hit or prick the sense bases of eyes, ears, etc., new sores of lobha, dosa, and moha arise, i.e., sek. 3, that again increase the sores and pains, i.e., sek. 4. The 6 senses of the door are pricked with the thorns of the 6 sense objects, and as lobha, dosa, moha new sores arise which again increase future sores. You're able to open the eyes for dukkha, but not its cessation. The Aryas and worldlings use the 6 senses of the door in different ways. With wise friendship, kalyana mitta, arrival to Nibbāna becomes apparent. Without kalyana mitta, or dharma, you have to suffer in the present and also in samsara. Sayadaw gives the example of a man seeing a woman and ending up in family life, and many kinds of suffering follow afterward. And then he was complaining about his misfortune due to bad kamas. In reality, it's the fault of entering into the thorny wood of sense objects. Sayadaw continues to talk about the sufferings with each sense door. Each day, every day, uncountable new sores arise. From each of the senses of the door, we're receiving the 3 kinds of new sores related to lobha, dosa, and moha. It happens because the mind door is muddy, kilesas. Of the 3 types of kama, mind action is the greatest fault. Closing your eyes can't attain Nibbāna. Going the wrong way will lead to dukkha. Knowing how to open it to attain Nibbāna, Here the talk relates to Indriyabhavana Sutta, Minnesota 152. Therefore, how to open or be able to open your eyes is even quite important. If the seeing mind, hearing mind, etc., arise, contemplate Anicca. This is not insignificant. It's with the path factors, Maganga, that cut off the three kinds of the DA process. Thus, it cures the Kilesa sores with the Magga medicine. This point is not only important for transcending dukkha, but also to protect and look after the environments and nature nowadays. 21st century human beings create a lot of dangers and problems for Mother Earth. Sayadaw continues the talk by giving the similes of the 6 animals to the sense doors. It was like a human being looking after the 6 animals. He was always dragged away by one of the strongest animals. Therefore, his living and dying are unstable. It doesn't follow his own desire, i.e., for worldlings. Not because they have free time, but because they have to follow behind due to its pulling. If you see them with the Nana eyes, they appear very ugly. I.e., always burning with Kilesa fires. Therefore, Nibbāna is the non-existence of these 6 animals. Only by arriving at a stable, Anicca, Nibbāna can one have stable living and dying. Carrying the unbearable burden is also dukkha sakka. We think arriving in the human realm is happiness, because of a sugati existence, good destination. In reality, it happens because of not recognizing dukkha sakka. Because you have to look after the 6 animals. It'll be peaceful only by striking a peg and binding him there. Tomorrow, I'll talk about how to strike a peg and bind the animals there, i.e., the way of insight. Practicing Dharma means being able to control one's mind and using it for one's desires. If you can't overcome the mind, what'll happen to it? The mind is used to seeking pleasures in unwholesome matters, untrained or uncultured mind. The mind itself is not only a leader, but also takes pleasure in unwholesomeness, which makes life disordered and confusing. If you can't control the mind, suffering is certain. Don't forget this important point. This is the main point for living beings mostly encountering apaya dukkha in samsara. Therefore, living beings can't be seen as arriving at a peaceful Nibbāna. If you are unable to tame the mind, you will become a drifting and sinking man in samsara, i.e., sugati and dugati, mostly in dugatas. Don't doubt about this point. Those who cannot control the mind will never attain Nibbāna. The contemplation of Cittanupassana disperses the companions of the mind with Anicca, dukkha, and anatta, and tanha, upadana, and kama can't arise. Even if you contemplate the mind, if you discern Anicca, it becomes Dhammanupassana. It's no longer the mind, and you get the yathabhuta nana, because you discern the original nature of its Anicca. While sila is controlling the mind, insight destroys the mind so that it can't do whatever it likes. Whatever actions are done by following the mind only are going wrong. Continues the 6 animals. The worldling was like a man who bound the 6 animals of the 6 senses of the door with tanha ropes, i.e., 6 ropes, that were tied into a knot, avijja, together, and then he was harnessing them. If you can't control them, i.e., the sense door animals, you are left with a bad living and dying, whereas controlling him leads to a good living and dying. Being unable to control the mind means that it does not have the nature of being stable and calm. The noble Dharma or Dharma and the ignoble Dharma, worldly and worldling, are quite far apart. Every mind that arises must contemplate as Anicca or engage in Cittanupassana. The minds are the 6 animals. Bind all the animals at the post, peg, of sati and they cannot run away. With the contemplation of Cittanupassana, tanha is cut off and avijja becomes vijja. If you can insert the path factors, Maganga, between Sek 2 and Sek 3, it becomes Sasana Dharma. Therefore, Dana, Sila, and Samatha are the dharmas of external sasana. The beginning of sasana starts from Vipassana. Sayadaw gives some examples for the external sasana, the Dana of the Velama Brahman, the jhana teachers of the Bodhisattva, Uddaka Ramaputta, and Alara Kalama. No one or nobody could teach inserting the path factors between Sek 2 and Sek 3, i.e., before the Buddha arose. The Bodhisattva became Buddha because he could insert Maganga between Vedana and Tanna, and not under the bo tree. If you prefer the mind and contemplate the minds, if on feeling then contemplate feelings, if on Dharma then contemplate truths, sakas, etc. The I-ness of wrong view is the strongest clinging to the mind. With the contemplation of Anicca in the mind, Ditti can't stick to it. After achieving success with the minds, Cittanupassana, then proceed to Vedananupassana. Proceeding successively makes the way straight. We never know about Mogok Sayadaw's own way of practice, because he never mentioned it. His instructions to yogis are Cittanupassana and Vedananupassana. Only by attaining the knowledge of Sakanalomika Nana does one truly engage in Sasana Dharma, i.e., Anicca. If you ask me, what are the differences between the outside Sasana and inside Sasana Dharmas? The answer is the outside Sasana Dharma only has Kammasakata Nana. The inside Sasana Dharma has both knowledge of Kammasakata Nana and Sakanalomika Nana. The knowledge of Anicca is important. Through the discernment of Anicca only, do the knowledges of disenchantment and its ending arise. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 2nd of October 1962. A short visit to human realm. Your permanent homes are the 4 apayas. Human realm, heavenly realm, and Brahma God realm are only short visiting places. Why are you all falling into apayas? Because you are unable to cut off the diya process of the Khandha, so that it becomes your permanent home. You have to understand the DA process. Ditti arises because you don't understand it. With the cause of Ditti, beings fall into apayas. This factor is very important for beings falling into apayas. Becoming a Sotapanna, Ditti is eradicated, and there is no more becoming in woeful existences, hells, animals, ghosts, etc. One day then, Ananda went to Kuru country and there he enjoyed the fruition state. From the Nibbāna Samyutta N. The fruition state involves contemplating Anicca and, at the end of Anicca, inclining toward the Nibbāna element. It means Nibbāna and Phala Nana, fruition knowledge, are together. He was contemplating the object of Nibbāna with the cessation of dukkha, here Sotapatti Phala. After that, he reflected on the Paticcasamuppada Dharma and then went to see the Buddha. He said to the Buddha that Da Dharma was easy for him. The Buddha rejected his statement. In the apayas, living beings are more overwhelmed than in other places because of their lack of understanding about Da Dharma. From human realm and heavenly realm, living beings construct the hell realms according to the Da process, i.e., Ditti right pointing arrow Dittupadana right pointing arrow Kamma. Only with the understanding of the Da process can you understand the practice. In the whole Da process, only Sek 2 and Sek 3 are important because they relate to the present period. Ananda's understanding of Da was only regarding stream entry. He had not yet understood the other Da processes from once returner to Arahant. People who do not practice are Kamma Samangas who are collecting Kamma before death. Past lives old karmas are following people, and they are also making new karmas in every present. If we think about it carefully, it's quite frightening. To destroy the old karmas and to cut off new karmas, only the path knowledge is able to do it. These words are very important. We establish the 5 path factors to develop them into 8 path factors. For example, you contemplate the hearing mind. If it's just hearing, it is called abhyakata citta, neither wholesome nor unwholesome mind. The contemplative mind, gnana, is a wholesome mind. The two can't be in parallel. At the moment of abhyakata mind, a wholesome mind can't arise. Eka citta sampayutta can exist with only one mind, at each moment. They have different time spans relative to each other. At the time of contemplating, you'll see the hearing mind does not exist, already vanished. There are no other minds arising between them at the present. After the arising and vanishing, gnana can enter or come in. Even though Vipassana Magga analyzes dukkha and abandons samudaya, it has still not yet seen nirodha. How to make this gnana mature? With strong effort, viriya, gnana can mature. Therefore, an ordinary disciple, pakati savaka, does not need perfection, paramis. It doesn't mean you don't have any perfection from your past lives. Here, Sayadaw encourages people not to rely on paramis alone. With strong effort, if you can make Anicas and Maggas fit together, then the practice will be fulfilled, i.e., no kilesas will come between Anicca and Magga. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 2nd of October 1962. The Eyes by Mother and Teacher. This is a very simple, clear, and profound talk on how to eradicate lobha, dosa, and moha. There were a lot of people who came to listen to Sayadaw's talk. So with karuna, he gave a very useful practice. I ask you to look at the Khandha, which means to pay attention to it. The Dharma is in the Khandha. Paying attention is looking at the Khandha. How will the Khandha tell you? Now. A lot of people are here, and the Khandha tells you, it's hot. A dosa mind will arise, i.e., domanassa mind, discontent, displeasure. On the body is dukkha vedana. The Khandha tells you it's dukkha sakka. Pay attention or contemplate it as dukkha sakka arises. From the tree of dukkha, only fruits of dukkha are born. So, the Khandha is dukkha sakka, and the gnana able to find this out is magga sakka. In this way, from behind dukkha follows no domanassa. From behind dukkha, the desire of wanting it goes away of lobha does not arise. Domanassa also does not arise. Thus, soka sorrow, lamentation, etc., do not arise. Avidya the ignorance of not knowing also ceases. I.e., lobha, dosa, moha cease. This point is important. In the Khandha, only dukkha arises and ceases. Therefore, whatever arises, wherever it is the arising of dukkha and the cessation of dukkha. The body Khandha is loathsome, asubha, and only loathsome materials come out, such as sweat, phlegm, urine, excrement, etc. In the same way a mango tree only bears mango fruits. Khandha is dukkha sakka, and only dukkha comes out. If you recognize it every time it arises, it becomes magga, vijja. Without this knowledge, it becomes avidya. Do you have to pray for magga? Or recognize it every time it arises? So, don't go in front of the Buddha image for prayers. Realization occurs every time you know it arises. With the knowing of dukkha, you'll get magga gnana. If you don't know, you will not get it. Whatever mind, feeling, or form arises, contemplate them as dukkha sakka. Is there any mistake with it? Is there anything besides dukkha sakka in sek? 2. Therefore, seeing, hearing, smelling, etc., all the minds caused by it, i.e., the 5 khandhas in sek 2, must be dukkha sakka. It arrives at truth and becomes dharmanupassana satipatthana. If you are looking for truth, you will find it in the khandha. Isn't the path the work of prayer? Or is it searching for dukkha? You only need to catch and see whatever dharma arises. The arising dharma is dukkha sakka. Catching and seeing is magga sakka. You have to note it as someone attaining the path factors. I'll tell you about the benefit of it. Before, you didn't know it, following with dosa. As an example, it's too hot. With dukkha vedana arising, dosa can't follow when knowing the arising dharma. To eliminate dosa is magga. In this way, you're inside the sasana, and the doors to upayas are closed, i.e., stream entry. It's quite valuable. Closing the doors to upaya means no dosa arises. The desire for it disappears. Tanha also does not arise because of following with maggas. Thus, tanha's samadhaya dies. By knowing the arising phenomena, you become vijja, and avidya ceases. Avidya, ignorance, is moha, delusion, and moha does not arise. Therefore, knowledge of one's lobha, dosa, and moha dies away. Their cessation is Nibbāna. Lobha leads to Pita existence, dosa to hells, and moha to the animal realm, and with their cessation, upaya doors are closed. The path knowledge closes it for you. This knowledge is Kakam Udapadi, the eye of wisdom. The path knowledge arises. You have to acquire this knowledge and don't forget it. It's very important. Only with the appearance of a Buddha do we have this knowledge. This is the arising of the eye of knowledge, Nana eye. These are the eyes which the teacher gives to you, not by your mother. The eyes which the mother gives to you are, this is your father, mother, etc. She taught you concepts and couldn't teach you the ultimate truth. The eyes given by the Buddha and teacher let lobha, dosa, and moha die. The eyes given by the mother let affection, fear, and fright arise. The mother can give you the eyes of sila. The teacher can give you the wisdom eyes. Isn't that quite different? Only with wisdom can one go to Nibbāna, and you have to rely on it. It can exterminate the watery root of samsara. In this way, it's joyful to die, with the cessation of samadhaya and the ending of dukkha. The Buddha teaches that if you want to think, then think of it as dukkha sakka, from sakkasamyutta. By thinking of whatever is arising, you close the doors of upayas, i.e., follow with magga. If you lag in your thinking, the doors to upaya open, i.e., man follows thinking. Which impacts you more, opening the doors or closing the doors to upaya? You attain magga if you are capable of thinking. Being unable to think leads to dukkha. Therefore, the 4 upayas become our homes and fields. I'll relate a short story for you. In the Buddha's time, Vajira Bhikkhuni, after going on alms round in Savatthi, later went to a cemetery for the day's abiding. Then Mara, the evil one, desiring to arouse fear and terror in her, wanted to disrupt her day's abiding and approached her with questions. By whom has this being been created? Where has the being arisen? Where does the being cease? He asked all these useless questions. Only dukkha sakka exists and there is no living being. Mara approached her regarding living beings. Vajira recognized him as Mara and gave the answer, "There are no living beings. Why do you come and ask me?" Mara was questioning with the wrong view. Only dukkha sakka exists. From Bhikkhuna Samyutta. You must remember that whatever arises in the Khandha is dukkha arising. The momentary present is also dukkha, and so is vanishing. Nibbāna is near. Why don't you find it? Because you don't know how to remove dukkha. Note, there are two coverings on Nibbāna. The first is hindrances, and the second is dukkha. If you contemplate by discerning Anicca, its disenchantment, and the desire for its ending, then the cycles of arising and falling come to an end. Do not merely open your eyes and look. The khandhas, 5 khandhas, disappear under knowledge. What remains with the knowledge? The contemplative mind or jnana stays with the extinction of dukkha, i.e., Nibbāna. Extinction at the place of dukkha is Nibbāna. This knowing is path knowledge. It was like a movie. The images that appear on the movie screen are like the arising of dukkhas. When the movie ends and the images cease, the white screen appears. This is like Nibbāna. This is a metaphorical term and should not be taken literally because Nibbāna is a kind of emptiness. Knowing or seeing is Magga Gnana. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 3rd of October 1962. Leading by Wisdom. Look at the circle of the DA chart. You'll see the 12 kinds of the mind, i.e., seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, bodily consciousnesses, greed, anger, delusion, non-greed, non-anger, thinking minds, breathing mind, wanting to breathe in and out minds. The nature of the mind is running towards sense objects. After becoming aware of the objects, it passes away. As an example of the seeing mind, it knows the object and then it passes away. Knowing the object is its arising and not knowing the object is its vanishing. This is the nature of the mind. A mind arises or does not arise. You have to decide based on the sense objects. Without an object, it cannot arise. It arises by a sense object, and with its lifespan ending, it vanishes. In the 5 path factors, right view is the leader of all. With mind consciousness, the whole Khandha group also passes away. The leader consciousness vanishes clearly, the others do not vanish clearly. In the 5 path factors, only right view, samadhi, really sees it. The others are only helping it to see it. Here, panamagan are the main factors, i.e., right view and right thought, and samadhi magan are not the main factors. Only panamagan discerns Anicca, and samadhi magan does not see it but helps panamagan. Pana and samadhi magangas combine together in discerning Anicca. Contemplating Anicca, led by wisdom, does not connect section 2 to section 3, that liberation from kilesa with panamagan. Even though samadhi magan is included here, it's not the main point. With samadhi alone, one cannot discern Anicca and arrive at Nibbāna. Only with wisdom and the seeing of Sakka can one arrive at Nibbāna. These are not small words. Samadhi only directs the mind toward Anicca, and it doesn't know what is there. Samadhi can manifest psychic power in worldly matters but cannot liberate from samsara. Thus, samadhi is not much different from those who don't have it, and is similar to animals. Because samadhi is not free from birth, aging, sickness, and death. Note, in this talk, Sayadaw strongly emphasizes pana over samadhi. If we continue to listen, we will understand the reason. With pana, one can develop vipassana samadhi. See the teachings of Sayadaw U Kandima. Therefore, when dakas and dakamas, lay people, come here, I mainly teach them to contemplate Anicca. I don't want him to practice samadhi separately because it's not only external sasana dharma, but I also don't want them wasting time. With the discerning of one Anicca one is freed from one kilesa, and with a lot of seeing Anicca, one will be far away from kilesa. Being far away from kilesa and its disappearance is the task of wisdom. The Buddha also said that wisdom is the noblest thing in the world. It was never for samadhi, i.e., the noblest in the world. Wisdom is able to penetrate things which others are unable to penetrate. Here Sayadaw gave an example of the Brahma gods who can't discern Anicca because they don't have wisdom. Only wisdom, Panna, knows Anicca, Dukkha, Sakka. Only wisdom is worthy and reliable. These teachings come from Suttanipata. When the Buddha was teaching the wanderer Susima, he used wisdom to teach him. This was from Nibbāna Samyutta, and Sayadaw told the story of Susima. I am urging you to use wisdom for practice. The Buddha gave the following instruction to Susima. First, practice with Vipassana Gnana, and later the knowledge of seeing Nibbāna will arise, i.e., path knowledge. After Vipassana Gnana, Magga Gnana arises. Vipassana Gnana is discerning of Anicca, and Magga Gnana is not seeing of Anicca, or the ending of Aniccas. These are the differences between them. If Anicca and Magga fit together, then right attention and Gnana also fit together. Yonasomanashikara and Panna come together. Yoniso pays attention to Anicca, and Panna sees it. Therefore, right attention and Gnana fit together. In this way, Savaka Paramis, ordinary disciples' perfections, are fulfilled, and it can lead to stream entry and arahantship. This was said by the Buddha. These Pali words describe the main necessity of Vipassana insight in practice, i.e., not those of Mogok Sayadaw's own ideas. There are some controversies between jhana samadhi-based and insight, Vipassana samadhi-based practice. Some reject the second way as invalid without jhanic samadhi. However, there are many pieces of evidence in the suttas and modern-day yogis' experiences which support the second way. Many had realizations by listening to the Buddha's teachings in the Buddha's time, laypeople, monks, devatas, and brahmas. The Buddha also taught dying monks vipassana practice at their deathbeds. Vipassana Yanika practice seems to yield quicker results than jhana-based practice, which takes a long time to develop jhanas. These two ways of practice are more distinctive within Thai forest tradition and Burmese tradition. Sayadaw U Khandima's teachings also support these two views of practice. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 7th of October 1962. Wrong views on Nibbāna. Sankhara is the Dharma of making something. It makes the Khandha. Not desiring anything is Nibbāna, but don't take it as though nothing exists. It has no dukkha. At the place of dukkha, sukha arises. Where no Khandha exists, one is freed from the round of existence, vata. I am asking you to contemplate the Khandha until its disappearance to let you know about the freedom of your own vata. Dukkha exists in section 2, the cessation of dukkha is also there, i.e., sec. 2. See the 12 links of the DA chart. People think of Nibbāna as a big city or place. Some Buddhists even created paradises, a permanent heaven for Atta Nibbāna. Nibbāna means it has no dukkha. The above hour-long talk is on the subject of the 3 rounds of existence, i.e., Kilesa Vata, Kama Vata, and Vipaka Vata. Sayadaw explains them using the 12 links of the DA process chart. He discusses Nibbāna in various ways in some talks. He believes that wrong views on Nibbāna prevent realization of the Dharma. There are many misunderstandings and misinterpretations of Nibbāna, even among Buddhists. The outsider's Nibbāna is Ditta Dharma Nibbāna, worldly sensual pleasure, which is associated with Western hedonism. Their seeing is burning with sensual lust, hearing, smelling, tasting, etc., are also burning with lust. Therefore, they will never appreciate dukkha and Nibbāna. Some Buddhists, including monks, interpret their Sanatavada as, everything is empty. Therefore, they don't consider Nibbāna as emptiness and have created something tangible. This allows them to come and go as they wish, due to their strong and deeply rooted bhavatana. Thus, they can assist others by coming and going like the Hindu avatar. Without an understanding and appreciation of dukkha, one will never know about Nibbāna. Always thinking with ditthi and tanha, they never fully appreciate and understand dukkha and Nibbāna. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 7th of October 1962. Bitten by dogs. In many lifetimes, our actions of two unwholesome and wholesome dogs are following behind us. All the time, the unwholesome dog is stronger. If we observe our mind processes in daily life, unwholesome minds are more prevalent than wholesome minds. Death, occurring as the expiration of kamas, is influenced by akusala. Human birth arises with wholesome kama or merit, but when death comes, it is unwholesome. There are a lot of wholesome and unwholesome, merits and demerits, that, instead of two dogs, a pack of dogs following behind us is more accurate. To consider it as free from dangers is quite foolish. Therefore, you all have to tread the path of freedom from dogs, magga, until you arrive at the destination of Nibbāna. I'll extract a story for this from a sutta, i.e., Subbrahma Devata Sutta, Devaputta Samyutta. Sayadaw told the story. The Buddha couldn't save him directly. Only the Dharma could save him. According to the story, Subbrahma and his 500 celestial nymphs were destined to fall into hell due to their kama. Some Buddhists have the mistaken view that chanting certain mantras of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can save them from any dangers and misfortunes. The preceding Anicca is Dharma and the following discerning of mind, Nana, is also Dharma. You only know the Dharma and are able to practice, which can save you. Apart from the Dharma, there are no other reliable things. Your bones, piled up to the height of 13 miles between two Buddhas, were bitten by dogs, i.e., by kama. Apart from the task of Maganga, there are no other truly reliable elements. According to the story, Subbrahma and his consorts entered the stream by listening to the Buddha's talk, and the doors to hell were closed for them. This gives us some insights into the workings of kama and the importance of the warning of the last words of the Buddha, Vyadharma Sankara, Apamadina Sampadetha, all conditioned things are subject to decay, strive on with heedfulness. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 13th of October 1962. The great benefit of Anicca. People living the careless life are going towards death. With the knowing of the truth, Sakka, they die but are accepted from reaching a bad destination, Dugati, and instead arrive at a good destination, Sugati. A person who knows the truth is already discerning the rise and fall of phenomena, which is Anicca. The rise and fall are dukkha sakka. The rises and falls of mind, feeling, etc., are also dukkha sakka. The person knowing the rise and fall of phenomena knows the truth. He has not yet abandoned ditthi with its root, i.e., temporary abandoning. Do not feel sadness because of the temporary abandonment of it, and you'll arrive at Sugati. As soon as you arrive there, the discerning of Anicca and dukkha sakka quickly appears in her mind. Even if this yogi takes rebirth there, he doesn't know it yet because Nana appears first, before he knows himself as a devata. This has to die with Anicca dukkha sakka. Dukkha sakka arises first, and he enters the stream instantly. You may ask, why is it so quick? This is because they, devatas, don't have pancreas, phlegm, blood, oil, etc. One therefore, the yogi, devata, continues to discern the rise and fall, Anicca, more clearly and progresses from Sotapanna to Arahant. If one becomes Anagami and Arahant, one can't stay in heaven. Anagami has to pass away and take new rebirth in the Brahma realm. For an Arahant, it becomes the Nibbāna element. This is my reflection. Sayadaw did not mention these in the talk. A person who knows about the truth, Sakka, will not fear death. A pain appears and disappears, as do goodness, itching, etc. These are also examples of the rise and fall, Anicca. Knowing this is knowing the truth, Sakka. At that time, Kilesa is extinguished. If you die with this awareness and arrive at Sugati, you might become a Sotapanna instantly. If you don't, also don't worry about it. 100 years of human life is equal to 1 day in heaven. 100 years on earth equals 1 day in heaven. A sasana year of over 2,500 is equivalent to 25 days plus hours in heaven. 2. At the meeting of Devata, some Devatas deliver Dharma talks, Sakka Dharma, and the Yogi Devata, by listening to their Dharma talks, also can realize Dharma. If you don't know Sakka, you can be in low spirits. Here, every day, you all are listening to Sakka Dharma and contemplating him, thus knowing about the truth. Mogok Sayadaw's Sakka Dharma talks are importantly valuable. The Buddha himself mentioned, if you know about Sakka, don't worry. I am not encouraging you, but talking about it according to the Anguttara Nikaya Pali, i.e., directly from the Buddha. 3. If it's not in this way, i.e., the second point above, some of your dharmic friends, Kalyanamitas, who died before you and arrived there as Devatas, will remind you of your practice and you can contemplate Anicca and thus enter the stream. This is more likely if the yogi as a Devata has not been there very long. Otherwise, they might indulge in celestial pleasure and get lost. See, Subrahma Devata and his consorts. Therefore, live and die courageously, i.e., with Sakka Dharma. There is nothing to be afraid of. Sayadaw's words are uplifting. 4. If not in this way, i.e., the third point, and some Devatas' lifespans expire, they die in a blip and disappear. The Yogi Devata sees this, having also heard and seen Sakka Dharma before that. By seeing the Devatas encounter sufferings, at the time of dying, and contemplating Anicca, he can enter the stream. These 4 factors are clearly mentioned by the Buddha in the Anguttara Nikaya. People who don't yet know them must learn them through the practice, i.e., Sakka mentioned above. Now, if you have experienced the Magga and then die, that is also good. Sayadaw continues to explain the DA process. Vipaka Vata refers to the round of existence. He then explains the 3 Vatas, Kilesa, Kama, and Vipaka Vatas, respectively. You should contemplate Vipaka Vata as Dukkha Sakka, i.e., the 5 Khandhas, otherwise, it will lead to Tanha, Upadana, and Kama. This, in turn, will lead back to Kilesa and Kama Vatas. Consider whatever arises as Dukkha Sakka, because the whole body is Dukkha Sakka. Seeing, hearing, goodness, etc., are Dukkha Sakka because they are Anicca. Never think about, what will I become if I die? Die knowing the truth, which leads exclusively to Sugati and not elsewhere. This talk was delivered 4 days before his Parinibbāna. Sayadaw is encouraging and uplifting the disciples not to become low-spirited and worry about their practice. For example, what things are coming out from an asubha corpse? From the nature of asubha, only asubha will come out. In the same way, at the present moment of this Khandha, whatever arises from it is only Dukkha Sakka that rises and falls. If you die with this kind of knowledge, there is no seriously ugly death, because the Magga comes between Sek 2 and Sek 3. Then Vedana Pakaya Tana does not arise and only Pana arises, and Samadaya Sakka ceases, Tana ceases, i.e., the cessation of sex. 3. Section 4 does not arise and samsara is cut off, i.e., different stages of samsara, e.g., for a Sotapanna, the 4 apaya samsara. You have to instruct your family members that if I die, do not make merits for me. For most worldlings after death, becoming hungry shades is more likely. Even though you are not a slave to others, you are still a slave to your Khandha. Therefore, you suffer vata dukkha, i.e., vipaka vata. Here Sayadaw refers to looking after and conditioning of the Khandha in many ways. You have to urinate and excrete, run here and there, eat and drink, etc. Do you have any free time? You're a slave to the Khandha, encountering vata. A vipaka vata being is dukkha sakka. Therefore, every time with the contemplation, you attain Lokya Magga. How do you attain Lokuttara Magga? You have to contemplate until its ending. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 1st of October 1961. The Crooked Dharma and the Straight Dharma. The Buddha taught Panna. By seeing a physical form, affection arises, and clinging to it as reliable. These are Tanha, Mana, and Ditthi, which are followed by Upadana and Kama. Then you'll suffer. If you don't have affection, then there is no suffering. Therefore, whether you choose to suffer is determined here, and if you choose not, it must also be corrected here. It's easy to fall into this trap, but difficult to correct it, similar to a foolish patient who eats unsuitable foods, causing lobha, dosa, and moha sores to arise. These are mental afflictions. Mistaking things that are not wife and children to be wife and children. The mind door is deceiving you. These are sores of affliction. In reality, they are Sankhara Dharma and Anicca Dharma, i.e., sensual pleasures. You have been deceived by them. If you overcome these deceits, you will arrive at Nibbāna. Knowing that they are not affectionate and unreliable leads to Nibbāna. The 3 dharmas of Tanha, Mana, and Ditthi are deceiving you. The dharma that does not deceive you is Magganga Dharma. Maggan is the straight dharma. You have to place it between the deceivers. Only with the deceivers do its companions of clinging and kama follow behind them. Here we can see the importance of the Mangala Sutta, the first and the second blessings. Asavana ca balanam not consorting with fools, Panditanan ca savana consorting with the wise. We are consorting with the 3 foolish leaders, Tanha, Mana, Ditthi, and their thugs, all the time instead of with the 8 wise men. If the crooked dharmas arise, leading to sufferings, and the straight dharma, leading to happiness and peace. Every time with seeing, hearing, knowing, you must always have a critical approach as, is it straight dharma or crooked dharma? If you have affection for them, it's crooked dharma. And if you recognize them as anicas, they become straight dharma. Tanha, Mana, and Ditthi make you hot. They not only affect humans, but also severely impact nature with climate change and all pollution. And Magga Dharma makes you cool. You must reflect on them with your heart. Note, the last paragraph is quite important for our daily life. We should always have a critical approach whether we are consorting with the fools or the wise. This is appamada, heedfulness. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. 2nd to the 3rd of December 1960. Khandha Train and Life Stations. This Khandha is like a train. As a train, it has to arrive at different stations. It's its duty. Initially, you arrive at the station of the mother's womb. Sayadaw talks about the unclean place of the mother's womb. The birth station is a station for dukkha. A person who doesn't know Sakha, noble truth, has to arrive there. Mentioning about some dukkha's in the womb, because you don't know about Jatipi dukkha Sakha, birth is the truth of dukkha. Now, staying in there for even a second is unbearable. You have to stay there as a vipaka vata being. Isn't it clear that the start of this life is not good? At the time of delivery, being forced to come out through the narrow hole. Gives an example of a mouse being forced to come out from a small iron net. Is it happiness or suffering? Wanting to come back here again is too foolish. Continues to talk about the sufferings after delivery. Now you can be happy because you don't know or remember the path you have traveled. By knowing of dukkha Sakha, the knowledge of not wanting to be born again will arise. After coming out, you arrive at the aging, jara, station and become a disabled small baby. Even though you have feet and hands, you can't do anything. You're thirsty for water and bitten by mosquitoes, but can't say anything and are unable to do anything. You even don't know what is happening to you. I am talking to you about the Abhana Sutta, Anguttara N, and point 5.57, with reflections. Opening parenthesis. Then Sayadaw continues to talk about old age, sickness, and death. If you still don't know Sakha Dharma and risk changing your head and arriving back at these stations again, such as different kinds of animal, dog, pig, etc., heads, human heads, Devata heads, etc., what kind of head do you still want to become again? Which stations do you like? Such as Jati, Jara, Vyadi, and Marana stations. If you don't like any of them, you have to pray for liberation from dukkha. Most Buddhists make prayers for Tanha, which is the source of all these dukkhas, such as long life, beauty, health, wealth, power, etc. You also have to practice which is the cause for not arriving there, i.e., all sorts of dukkha. I'll continue it tomorrow. From the aging station before arriving at the sickness station, you must look for the Magan path of a separate route. If you're sick, you can't do it. Now you can practice means not arriving at the sickness station yet. If you're sick, then only go to the death station, with serious illness and after that with serious death. Observe and contemplate the aging Khandha. From the 5 Khandhas, contemplate one of them. If you discern Anicca, Magan will arise. You have to watch and observe the Khandha and it'll tell you the truth. For example, in the darkness of the night with a mosquito bite, it's painful and itching. And then the hand arrives there. The mind arrives there first and is followed by the hand. Dharma is calling at you as Ehi Pasako. Come and contemplate me. Don't go there with the hand but go there with Nana knowledge. Going with the hand is going with dosa. Going with Nana is going with Magan. Going with dosa is going to Apaya, to hell. Vedana already ceases before Nana goes there. If you go where Anicca is calling, you will see Anicca. Going with dosa becomes Sakkaya Ditthi. If you go with Nana, you will find your own death. Your death is Anicca, and finding this out is Magga. Sanditiko Samapati Sabo. Seeing it by oneself because your Nana is going toward Ehi Pasako, which is calling at you, inviting you to come and observe me. You're lacking these 2 factors that have not found Nibbāna, and not arriving at the Magan path, instead of Micca Magga, defiled paths. There are many in worldly knowledge. If you're following behind Ehi Pasako, you will realize the first Magga, the second Magga, etc. Pakatam Veditabo Vinuhi, you will realize and experience them respectively. How do you experience them? Aging, sickness, and death do not come back again. If you contemplate a lot, Lokya Magga becomes Lokuttara Magga. If it becomes the 8 path factors, the Khandha disappears, the 5 Khandhas vanish. So, No more deaths are calling at you. You have found out by yourself the place of freedom from deaths. At the ending of Anicca, right pointing arrow Nicca Nibbāna exists. At the ending of Dukkha, right pointing arrow Sukha Nibbāna exists. At the ending of Anatta, right pointing arrow Anatta Nibbāna exists. Note: Nibbāna is Atta or Anatta. I have heard from a forest Thai Ajahn that Nibbāna is neither Atta nor Anatta. It makes sense because there are no worldly designations for it. Some Buddhists, whose ditthi tanha are so strong, postulate Atta Nibbāna with a permanent heaven for coming and going to save all beings, similar to Hindu avatars. Additionally, some Buddhists interpret Sunatta as meaning nothing exists. Thus, the defilement of bhava tanha was terrifying for worldlings. Thus, Nibbāna being Anatta is especially relevant for these Ragamatakas, Raga Umatakas, and Mohamatakas who prefer the ways of drifting and sinking in samsara with their attas. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 5th of December 1960. The Buddha's View, Humans' Fires. Today, I'll explain clearly about Nibbāna. You'll appreciate Nibbāna as ditthi falls away. Someone with a wrong view can't arrive at Nibbāna, nor can he like it. Opening parenthesis. This talk is based on the Agavachagata Sutta. Majjhima Nikaya. Minnesota 72, where Sayadaw continues on the questions to the Buddha by the wanderer Vakagata. The Buddha answers Vakagata as, the arising and vanishing of the 5 khandhas, mind and body, is my view. Contemplation of Anicca is derived from here. It is mentioned in many places in the suttas. This view leads to the cessation of tanha, mana, and ditthi. The Buddha's view and doctrine is that only Anicca exists and the contemplation of Anicca is crucial. Rupa, Vedana, Sana, etc. are only signboards, i.e., names only. The real existence is the existence of rising and vanishing. With the contemplation of Anicca, all clingings cease. If tanha, mana, ditthi cease, all the clingings following behind them also cease. With the cessation of clinging in the person and where he has gone, i.e., after death. With the cessation of clingings, kamma, actions, ceases, with kamma ceasing, births cease. With the cessation of births, one arrives at Nibbāna, nowhere to go, and no coming or going. Vakagata did not appreciate the falling away of ditthi, so there was no appreciation of Nibbāna, hence his questioning of where the person has gone. Therefore, as I mentioned at the beginning, only when ditthi has fallen away can one truly appreciate Nibbāna. If not, it's only the appreciation of lip service Nibbāna. It cannot be the appreciation of true Nibbāna. Here, the wanderer Vakagata shows no appreciation or understanding of Nibbāna. Perhaps his spiritual faculties are not mature yet. After the second meeting with the Buddha and asking questions again, he eventually becomes a monk and, through practice, becomes an arahant with the 6 supernatural powers. Sayadaw continues to explain the 4 questions put to the Buddha. If you do not have any appreciation for Nibbāna, you will never practice. Even with practice, ditthi will resist. And with the resistance of ditthi, you will never attain Nibbāna. Therefore, talking about Nibbāna is not easy. Most Buddhists are wrong viewers, and the majority prefer the coming and going in samsara. If you want to appreciate Nibbāna, look for a teacher who can teach you to understand dependent co-arising. In reality, the answer will be that someone with the cessation of his craving and clinging does not go anywhere. But with this answer, Vakagata will take the view of Akeda. According to the DA process, with the cessation of tanha, upadana, and kamma, birth, jati, ceases. There is no birth, and not going anywhere is true. Or with the cessation of dukkha, the arrival at the cessation of dukkha is also true. Actually, with the understanding of DA process, the nature of Nibbāna is becoming clear. Without Paticcasamuppada, there is no inclusion of truth, Sakkha. With the cessation of Samadaya comes Nirodha, the cessation of dukkha. With the cessation of the cause, i.e., Samadaya, craving, the result of dukkha ceases, i.e., the 5 khandhas, which is Nibbāna. This leads to the appreciation of Nibbāna. It's quite a valuable Dharma. Refer to Agavakagata Sutta. Only with the understanding of DA and truths, Sakkha, can one appreciate Nibbāna. And only with this understanding does Ditthi fall off. With the contemplation of Anicca and Tanha, Upadana ceases. With the cessation of Tanha and Upadana, Nibbāna will appear. Buddhavada right pointing arrow contemplation of Anicca, 5 khandhas, right pointing arrow the cessation of Tanha, Upadana right pointing arrow the cessation of dukkha, Nibbāna. Sayadaw continues to talk about Nibbāna using the simile of fire. If you're praying for a human existence, you have to be burnt with human fire, more fires than other beings. If you're praying for devatas, you have to be burnt with devata fire, less fire than humans. There are many kinds of fire and fuel. Note, human beings have more diverse kinds of fire than other beings. Therefore, the Buddha has to appear on earth, and he can deliver many suttas for misguided men. The human realm is the best place to study defilements and to cultivate goodness. Only humans, who understand dukkha, will develop goodness and wisdom. 11 kinds of fire are fires. See the 11 kinds of fire in the first discourse of dukkha with the Kilesa fires of humans. There are a lot to be mentioned. With the material developments of science and technology, humans' fires have become more developed and complicated. Human khandhas and fuels cannot be separated, and they are burning all the time, similar to the fire ghosts that Mahamoggallana encountered at Mount Gijjakuta. Therefore, where khandha exists, fires also exist. Thus, Nibbāna is the extinction of fires and fuels. With continuous contemplating, the khandha disappears, i.e., at the ending of Anicca's, and no khandhas exist, objects of khandha disappeared. This means no fuels and fires exist. Therefore, for a contemplating person, yogi, seeing the Dharma by himself. Nibbāna is sanditthiko, seeing by oneself, free from Kilesa vata and Vipaka vata, i.e., Tanha, Upadana of sek. 3 and Jati of sek. 4. This signifies that the DA process is cut off. With the cessation of the cause of Paticcasamuppada, the result is Nibbāna, sek. 3 and sek. 4. This is marked by the cessation of the 3 Samadaya Sakkha and the 5 khandhas of dukkha Sakkha, sek. 3 and sek. 4. If knowing only the arising phenomena is knowing dukkha, and knowing the cessation is knowing nirodha. Only when the preceding phenomena become nirodha and magga will the following samadaya and dukkha cease. The true practice involves dukkha and magga, khandha, anicca and vipassana magga. At the end, nirodha and magga emerge, with fuels and fires becoming extinct. Humans' fires and external fires. Humans' fires can be counted as internal fires. Humans' problems and sufferings depend on 2 causes, internal and external. The main cause is the internal one. If we can solve the internal issues, the external ones are also resolved. In today's 21st century world, the earth is more like a hell realm than ever before, due to the pollutions of the mind and many kinds of external pollution. There are a lot of wars going on, harming and killing each other like the hell scene, violent and bloody. The earth is so polluted that harmful, dangerous, and severe climate changes occur. Sometimes the weather is extremely hot and cold, i.e., nearly close to 50 degrees Celsius and minus 50 degrees Celsius, quite similar to the hot hell, Lohakumbhi Niraya, and cold hell, Lokantara Niraya. Summer times are becoming hotter and hotter, just as winter times are becoming colder and colder. Sometimes, both of them alternate in one season, sometimes hot and then cold, then hot again. The 4 seasons are becoming abnormal. At the end of the Kriya Pitaka, there are 3 gathas that mention 3 dangers identified by all Buddhas. These are the dangers of laziness, indolence, dispute, vivada, and heedlessness. In the Anguttara Nikaya of the Book of the Twos, there is a sutta about dispute, vivada. And point 2.38. A Brahmin named Aramadanda asked Mahakakana, why do Katyas fight with Katyas, Brahmins with Brahmins, and householders with householders? This question identifies 2 groups of people, worldly people and religious people. Mahakakana gave 2 answers for these groups. The 2 causes for their conflicts and disputes are: for all worldly people, the cause of their disputes and conflicts is due to adherence to lust for sensual pleasures, with bondage to fixation on, obsession by, and holding firmly to these pleasures. For religious people, it is because of adherence to lust for views, bondage to, fixation on, obsession by, and holding firmly to these views. There is also a very important sutta for human beings in the Digha Nikaya, the Sakapana Sutta, DN.21. Sakka, ruler of the gods, posed his first question to the Buddha. The question was, why do human beings, or other beings, wish to live with no hate, harming one another, hostile and malign, but in peace and happiness, they yet live in hate, harming on another, hostile and malign? The Buddha's answer was, it's the bonds of jealousy and avarice, Isamakriya. These are still related to the lust for sensual pleasures. This also leads to disputes and conflicts. Nowadays, these problems and sufferings are increasing in the 21st century from family levels to international levels. Humans are becoming more like fire ghosts and hell beings. Their future lives are likely to continue in this direction with more dukkha. Only the Buddha's education can help and save human beings. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw. The 23rd of June 1962. 2 Dhamma Lights. This talk is inspirational and instills confidence in the practice. There are 2 correct seeings: seeing with the insight path factors and seeing with the path factors, i.e., Vipassana Maganga and Maganana. Whatever phenomenon, Dharma, you're contemplating over a long period will not be perceived as mind, feeling, etc., but only as the rising and falling of Anicca. This is the observation of Sankhara Dukkha. This type of seeing can only be seen within the Buddha Sasana. Whatever arises in the Khandha, note it as Sankhara Dukkha. This is the precursor to the arising of the supra-mundane path factor, i.e., Lokutara Magga or Magga Nana. If you die with this seeing, you will not descend to apayas. As soon as you reach Sugati, the authentic Magga, referred to as Magga Nana, arises. This point was mentioned in the Sotanugata Sutta at Anguttara Nikaya, and 4.191. This point is interesting. Those who are reborn in a celestial realm. The Buddha goes and helps someone who has this quality, someone who has the potential for realization. The Buddha will certainly help someone or people who have this view. For someone, this is the view of freeing oneself from dukkha. Sayadaw gave the example of Ven. Kala Panthaka. If you're not seeing it, there is no benefit to becoming a human. This point is very important for Buddhists to not miss this precious chance. If one does not possess this view, even meeting the Buddha, he can't do anything. Sankhara dukkha always exists in the Khandha. Don't get a good teacher that it makes people blind. It appears they have a good eye but can't see. Some pray, may I meet the future Buddha Metta. If you don't have this Nana with you and meet him, it will also be useless. You can't be liberated by him. This point is very important for Buddhists who believe in some vows and mantras that can help them with some Buddhas, Bodhisattvas at Buddha lands. Most of them only have one light, which is believing in the law of karma and not knowing about the 5 darknesses and 5 lights. You have to practice hard to discern this view. Seeing once, seeing twice, with seeing a lot of them, you have to note it as supramundane knowledge that will arise. If you follow the end of Anicca's, Sankhara dukkha will come to an end, and Magga Samma Ditthi will arise. The path knowledge meets with Asankata Sukha. In the past, monks did not teach this kind of Dharma. They did not talk about it, and most people think Nibbāna is very far away for them, unable to reach it because they think it's far away for them. It's interesting to contemplate these factors in Thai and Burmese Buddhism before the end of the 19th century, i.e., before the Thai forest tradition and Mogok Sayadaw. The Buddha also talked about it. If you practice it yourself, the practice will tell you that it's near. My worry is that you don't do the practice. There is nothing to be low-spirited about. Getting the Anicca Khandha is getting the Vata Khandha. You'll be liberated from Vipaka Vata by not seeing Anicas anymore, i.e., as a result of the round of existence. Peace and coolness are left behind in the Khandha. Mind and body become light, and gladness arises as a heavy load is lifted off, free from the dangers of woeful existences apayas.